Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, share, and restack buttons. Well, a new global order is coming. The post-Cold War era, marked by U.S. financial and military dominance around the globe, is coming to an end. In fact, I would say it already has come to an end, but just like Wile E. Coyote in the old Roadrunner cartoons where he runs over the edge of the cliff, but he's suspended midair for a little bit before he realizes that he is. I think that's where the United States is right now, both financially and militarily. And most of the world, and especially people in the United States, don't recognize that yet, but some do. And there's a very clear, undeniable evidence that that's the case we're going to talk about today. In fact, it's something we've been talking about for almost a year already, something we predicted that we would be talking about right now. When it started to occur, I said, this is going to be the outcome. And that's turned out to be the case. So what am I talking about? Well, let's take a look at this article from Zero Hedge. It's titled, "This is a Clear Sign of Collapse of American Credibility and Deterrence." It says the West faces dire consequences if the Iran-backed Houthi aggression in the southern Red Sea persist. Beyond the intermediate inflation threat caused by shipping disruptions and skyrocketing container rates due to rerouted merchant ships around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, the long-term game is even more troubling. America's credibility and deterrence is quickly eroding. And I would submit, we said from the beginning, it's not eroding, it's gone. U.S. conventional military deterrent capability is gone. Now, the U.S. nuclear deterrent capability still exists for the moment. As technologies advance, that too will disappear. But conventional weapons systems, the United States having an advantage with those systems, as was featured during the Gulf War 30 years ago, that capability, that edge over other military forces is gone. We've entered a new era marked by drone warfare, and that's at the heart of what we're talking about here in the Red Sea. So let's continue on. It says, this perceived weakness, and it's not perceived, it is weakness, could embolden China to escalate disputes in the South China Sea, sensing a weakening West becoming increasingly entangled in multiple conflicts, including those in Ukraine and the Middle East. And here I think they're focusing on, well, this could embolden others. That's the least of the problems, as we'll talk about for the United States. But of course, all this plays into Bible prophecy, and we'll talk about that as we get toward the end. It says, former Navy SEAL and Blackwater founder Eric Prince wrote on X this weekend about the Houthi rebel missile attack on Greek-flagged oil tanker MV Soyunian about 77 nautical miles west of the Yemeni port of Hodeida, not sure if I pronounced that right, last week, that eventually led to a massive explosion and potential environmental disaster. Where is the rightful outrage from environmentalists? He says thousands of tons of crude oil will now pour into the Red Sea. This is a clear sign of the collapse of American credibility and deterrence. Letting the Iranian proxy Houthis shut off a major maritime seaway is an epic fail. And let's take a look at this. If we go back to the tweet that he linked to, we can actually see this in real time play out. I mean, a direct hit that takes out this oil tanker They note at 150,000 tons, this tanker is almost twice the size of Exxon Valdez, and the environmental damage to the region will be massive. Now, we don't know that for sure yet because the tanker is still afloat. It's leaking oil. It hasn't sunk. The oil hasn't completely spilled out into the Red Sea, but there is that potential threat there. More importantly, various tugboats and others that have come to try to get that ship, try to fence it off, prevent environmental damage. Well, they've received permission from the Houthis to do that. That shows us where we stand currently in this conflict. Remember, back in December, so all these attacks started about a year ago, October of last year. And in December, the United States launched Operation Prosperity Guardian, which included, I believe, 17 other nations in cooperation with the U.S. Navy with a goal of reopening the Red Sea, making the Red Sea a freely navigable international waterway for free trade once again. And at that time, I said, they will fail. And while there is weak leadership in the White House, which is one of the things Eric Prince is saying, I believe it wouldn't really matter who is in the White House. The U.S. conventional capability has gone the way of, the horse and buggy, right? It's been surpassed on the battlefield by drone warfare. We're seeing that in multiple places, most prominently in the war between Russia and Ukraine, which is dominated by drones. And we're only in the early stages of these drones. When you can launch a drone that costs $50,000 or less, and it takes $2 to $3 million worth of missiles and munitions to take it out, well, you win no matter what, because you have the ability to just outspend your opponent or empty their ability to defend if you launch enough of those drones. And so if you don't even hit your target, you still win by making them spend a lot more trying to defend against your offensive attack. But if you do hit your target, as we just saw, well, then that's another victory. So let's read on in this. So this article goes on. It says, to put things in perspective, so Union is hauling 150,000 tons of crude, a little more than 4 times the amount spilled by the Exxon Valdez in 1989. 10 months after Houthi forces in Yemen started disrupting maritime traffic in the Red Sea, global shipping companies have had to reroute merchant ships around the Cape of Good Hope. This has resulted in delays and higher container costs that will only worsen as capacity stretches thin. And I would note, well, it's not all global container shipping companies. Russian ships freely pass through the Red Sea. So think about who is winning this war of power right now, the U.S. and its allies, or Russia, Iran, China, the BRICS nations coalition. I think it's very clear at this moment. It says, meanwhile, the U.S. and the EU have launched numerous military operations committed to ensuring freedom of navigation and maritime security in the highly contested region, but have failed repeatedly. And guys, this is at the heart of U.S. power. We've discussed from the beginning what this means, the purpose. There's really 2 purposes for the U.S. Navy. Purpose number 1, obviously, and the one that most people think is the only purpose, is to defend the United States. Purpose number 2, which is also, it's protecting America's interest, but purpose number 2 is to make sure that the world's waterways are freely navigable for international trade. And in doing that, by controlling the world's waterways, the United States not only becomes a dominant naval power and shows its naval force, but it becomes the dominant financial power, and that the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. It's the currency most used for international trade, precisely because of this military capability to ensure freedom of navigation in the world's waterways. We saw this with the British Empire. During the 19th century, the British Navy controlled the world's waterways. It controlled these key trade routes. And in exchange, the world's reserve currency was the British pound. And the center of international finance was London. Well, following World War II, World War I to World War II, there was this transition period where that power, that naval power, moved from the British Navy to the United States. And likewise, when that happened, the world's reserve currency moved from the British pound to the US dollar. And the center of international finance moved from London to New York. And that power, that financial power, and that ability to print at will the world's reserve currency, the currency most in demand around the world, is what gives the United States the ability to create a military that can project power across the globe. So these two things, they are symbiotic, they feed on each other. You really can't have one without the other to the degree that we see in the United States use them. And now we're seeing, well, the United States cannot ensure freedom of navigation of the Red Sea, which has enormous implications, not just militarily, but financially. And again, I would point out they cannot, it's weak leadership. They can't. At least as of the moment. Maybe the United States will develop greater capabilities in drone warfare, but they have not done that yet. We don't see the innovation taking place. Let's go on. It says, Prince said, this is a clear sign of the collapse of American credibility and deterrence. Letting Iranian proxy Houthis shut off a major maritime seaway is an epic fail. America must do better. Leadership matters. And again, yes, we need better leadership, but that's not the problem. It says, why is the Biden-Harris administration's failed freedom of navigation military operation significant? Because it projects extreme weakness for the world's top superpower. Well, it doesn't just project it, it uncovers it. It makes it plain and clear to the world. Embroiled in conflicts in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and the Red Sea, this all exposes Biden and other far-left Western leaders who are extraordinarily weak. This perceived vulnerability could now accelerate the possibility of a major U.S.-China confrontation in the South China Sea. And it goes on to say how China could attack the Philippines, the United States would have to respond. What does that mean? Again, U.S. military conventional capabilities have been rendered obsolete. This isn't solely poor leadership, although I would say there's poor leadership, not about that. But this is a matter of trying to fight World War I with horse-mounted troops, right? We're gonna send in the cavalry. They're the best in all of Europe. What could go wrong? Well, technology has advanced, and riding a horse into battle isn't, the huge edge that it was the previous century. Now you might want something, different. They have these machine guns, and you might want to try something different. I think that old way of doing things doesn't work anymore. That's where we're at right now. The days of spending billions of dollars and 10, 15 years developing these conventional weapons systems that are just advancements on World War II era war fighting techniques. It's just that era has gone by. It's passed by. We now are in an era dominated by drones and drone swarms. We're seeing that innovation take place by Ukrainians and Russians on the battlefield in real time right now. That's where the future for warfare is. It's where the present is, but we're only in the early innings of that drone warfare. So the further that advances, the further behind U.S. military conventional capabilities fall. And the United States is still feeding these same defense contractors for orders of the same type of stuff that is proving to be a failure on the battlefield in real time in Russia, Ukraine, as well as in the Red Sea. And so, as this this isn't going to turn out well for the United States, as we've talked in the past about if a ship, I hope this doesn't happen, but if a U.S. naval asset is sunk by one of these Houthi attacks or an Iranian attack or whatever may come in the months and days ahead, the world would instantly recognize what we're talking about right now. And we would see a tremendous drop in U.S. financial power, the dollar, and thus the ability to project military power across the globe. And that would be pretty much the end of the United States. Now, again, I'm not saying the United States would just disappear, but look at where the United Kingdom stands today versus where it stood 120 years ago. That's essentially what we're talking about as far as a player on the world stage. 120 years ago, the British Empire was the mighty British Empire. The sun never sets on the British Empire. And today, not so much. The same future is waiting for the United States. It's only a matter of time before the world recognizes it and replacements come in for the dollar as the world's reserve currency, and new technologies completely surpass every aspect of the U.S. military. Again, the conventional deterrent is gone. The nuclear deterrent still exists for now, but as technologies advance, we're going to see mutual assured destruction. That's going to be obsolete too. So the future power, whatever this new world order looks like that comes about, it's most likely going to be dominated by drone swarms. Whatever nation or group of nations takes the lead in that area is the one that is going to be dominant. So, again, why does this matter? Well, this matters from a biblical standpoint because when we look at the end times, when we look at Bible prophecy, there's no mention of the United States as a great superpower. There's no mention of the United States at all. We read about the Gog of Magog invasion in Ezekiel 38 and 39. No nation comes to Israel's aid. There's no mention that the United States could come to Israel's aid. There's no mention anywhere in end times Bible prophecy of the United States or a major player that could be the United States. So that tells us that United States financial and military power and capability must wane. It must dwindle away. Turns out that's exactly what we're seeing take place right now, guys. It's happening. I live in the United States. I'm not saying that I want that to happen. I'm just making an observation that this is what's happening. And that's what we would expect to see, given the times we live in, with all the other signs we see that Jesus and the prophets said to look for. We're seeing those signs emerge and converge in our time. And this is just one of them. It tells us that, well, Jesus is coming, and he's coming back soon, guys. So keep your eyes fixed on him. Look up. Hope is in the future. While many of the things we talk about on this channel may bring people down, may not give them hope. Ultimately, your hope should be in Jesus Christ. This should be filling you with great hope that he's coming back soon. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just weak leadership in the White House. And if they would just do something different, these Houthis would go away. I don't think so. I think this is a matter of using outdated military technology that's no longer capable on the battlefield of doing what we think that it still is. Most of the public still thinks that the U.S. is dominant on the battlefield with these conventional weapon systems, and that's simply not true. So if you disagree, leave your comments below. Make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. God willing, I will see you on Wednesday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to visit my Substack at brittgillette.substack.com. There you'll find my latest videos and articles, as well as notes, where I share the latest news headlines, the articles I'm reading, and the videos I'm watching. Subscribe for free, and each new post on Substack will be sent directly to your email. Just scroll to the bottom of the homepage and hit the subscribe button. As an added bonus, your first welcome email will include a link to a copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt Gillette on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.